Rory Burr was found in a pool of blood on the floor of his trailer home in the tiny East Texas town of Cold Spring in August 2004. The 51-year-old school janitor, who people here remember as mentally slow but happy and kind, had been brutally beaten and stabbed 28 times in the head, neck, and face. The Winfrey family lived just down the road from Burr in this tiny community where everyone knows everyone and many folks are related to one another. Richard Winfrey Sr. had a long criminal history, and neighbors said they had seen his 2 teenage children come around Burr's house from time to time. Richard Winfrey Sr., his 16-year-old daughter Megan, and his 17-year-old son Richie became the prime suspects in this gruesome attack.
The reason they come at my kids to start with is because of my lifestyle. Me being buck wild out there, and they figured they could sell it to the public. They figured, well, we get Richard, there ain't nobody gonna doubt us. I guarantee you we can make this stick. And they stuck my kids in this to maybe break me down, to make it easier to convict me. Figured I'd just go, okay, I did it, I'm guilty.
After a long and unusual investigation that featured a jailhouse snitch and the detective work of bloodhounds with names like Clue and James Bond, police charged the Winfreys with conspiring to murder the custodial worker and steal his money.
The difficulties in the case center around the fact that it's all circumstantial evidence. There were no eyewitnesses, no one who was willing to testify to having seen the crime committed. In the investigation, the state brought in some what they call scent dogs, dogs trained to alert to the scents of various things related to a case.
Without any eyewitnesses or any DNA evidence to tie the Winfreys to the murder, investigators called on the help of a well-known canine handler from Fort Bend County. Deputy Keith Pikett and his bloodhounds, Clue, James Bond, Quincy, and Jag, developed a reputation for helping police statewide identify people they suspected when other methods failed. The dogs first implicated Richie and Megan, and later the dogs sniffed out their father, too. After a jailhouse snitch told police that Richard Sr. had given him information about the crime scene, all 3 of the Winfreys were arrested. In 2007, Richard Sr. was the first of the family to go on trial. The state's primary evidence came from the noses of Pikett's bloodhounds.
I honestly didn't think that I would be convicted at trial, and of course they didn't either. They said, like everybody, the judges, I mean all the people in the town says that my trial was a test. If they could get me convicted, then they'd get my kids.
The following year, a jury did convict Megan. In addition to the dog-sniffing evidence, prosecutors said Megan's behavior implicated her in the murder.
I think the dog scent evidence combined with her comment about him being an easy lick, her attempt to establish an alibi, and her shaving her pubic hair as soon as she found out they were taking samples, I think those all point pretty strongly to her involvement.
But the jury wasn't convinced that Richie was involved. He spent 2.5 years in jail waiting for his trial, and the jury in 2009 acquitted him in less than 15 minutes after his lawyers brought in experts who discredited the dog scent evidence. His lawyers explained to the jury that Pikett's testimony and his dog-sniffing skills were a sham. And experts who watched the video of Pikett's scent lineup said he appeared to have rigged the lineup by cueing the hounds. The following year, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals issued an acquittal in his father's case, too. The court wrote that dog scent evidence alone was not enough to warrant a conviction. Now, the father and son are living in North Dakota, just about as far away from Texas as they can get in the United States. They're working in the state's burgeoning energy industry and saving enough money to pay the lawyers who are working to get Megan out of prison, too.
It ain't nothing until we get her home. I mean, there's no rejoicing in anything. The only good thing about it is maybe we can do more outside and not being in prison. And we ain't found nothing we can really do. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to go seek help. We don't know this, we don't know that.
Despite the acquittals, some folks in Cold Spring, including the district attorney, remain convinced that the Winfreys were involved in Burr's death. The district attorney filed a brief opposing Megan's request for acquittal. He argues there is more evidence against her than there was against her father and brother.
You need to remember under the law, the conclusion of their cases is not that they were innocent. It is that they were not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the eyes of the courts. I know this is going to sound strange, but there are a number of cases that say even if the other actor involved has been acquitted, the prior one or the other one can still be convicted. What I've seen so far is enough to support the jury's decision based on all my years in the courtroom, but it's one that's close enough that opinions could sure differ on that. And until they tell me I have to write a complete brief, I'll not be digging into the case any further. I've got cases of my own on the burner now.
Over the district attorney's objections, the Court of Criminal Appeals recently agreed to review Megan's case. The girl who was your typical boy-crazy 16-year-old when Burr was murdered is now 23, and she has a daughter of her own. She's in the 3rd year of a life sentence.
She was just a typical teenage girl, in my opinion. We fought. Everybody fights. Siblings fight. We would argue about things and who gets what, and over the last bag of chips and things like that. We argue about who gets the remote, not, who's going to stab somebody.
And I mean, I'll tell you, if they had a truth serum, anything they had, put me on shock treatment, I'll do anything. My daughter has got 60 years and a 45-year sentence. She'll be an old lady before she's eligible for parole. And Megan is innocent. We know it, they know it.